Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I want to talk about the Lone Ranger. What I'm going to show you is my Gold Key collection. I have almost a complete run of the Gold Key Lone Rangers with those beautiful painted covers, some of which were original painted covers and some were reprints from the Dell comics. And as you can see here, this is a Lone Ranger giant comic. This is the Lone Ranger's Golden West, and it features on the cover a photo cover of Clayton Moore as the Lone Ranger and Jay Silverheels as Tonto. Now, Clayton Moore was a veteran of what was called movie serials. He played both bad guys, villains, and heroes in many movie serials, including I think believe the Legend of Jesse James. He played Jesse James in that movie serial from the 1940s. Anyway, so we can look at. We're going to do a deep dive of some of these Lone Ranger comic books, say in the first 10 issues. Then we're going to go and I'll show you the rest of the collection that I have. I have almost a complete run of the entire Gold Key output. And at a later episode, I'll show you some of those beautiful Dell Lone Ranger comic books. Um, the Lone Ranger ran in the Dell comics for at least, well, exactly 145 issues, and including spin offs from his horse, Silver, which had his own comic book, and Tonto, who had his own comic book. Now, Jay Silverheels worked as a stunt actor in Hollywood. He was originally born in the Six Nations Reserve in Brantford, that's Ontario, Canada, and eventually made his way to the U.S. Anyway, he landed the role of Tonto back in the 1949 when the first episode of The Lone Ranger was shown on television. So this is the Giant, the Gold Key Giant, the only one that I know of. I don't think there's any other one. And it features both the first, it's a reprint of the first appearance of Dan Reed. That would be the Lone Ranger's nephew, and who was a main character in the Lone Ranger comic books. And it also has a retelling of the Lone Ranger's origin story. As you can see here, the artwork is very good, actually, very confident. And it features artwork by people like Ernest Nodell. And this is what you have here. It's Ernest Nordley's, and he did some, I believe he did some of the painted covers, those beautiful painted covers. And there's the nephew of Dan Reed there, the nephew of the Lone Ranger. All right, so that's that. So we're going to do a deep dive through some of the first issues of the Gold Key. This is issue number 1. And this one is the one that has the story of the Lone Ranger. And that's the villain. Talks about Butch Cavendish and how all of the Rangers get killed. And how Tonto revives, and then the empty grave. And there you go. And his alter ego, Dan Reed, the silver bullet. All right. So that's issue number 1. And then it tells you how Silver becomes the Lone Ranger's horse. It's a basic retelling of the entire origin in the Lone Ranger Gold Key. And this is a mystery story. Lone Ranger and Jim's ordeal. The artwork was always quite competent. And like I said, Ernest Nordley did the artwork. And Ernest Nordley was famous for doing artwork for Gilberton, the Gilberton publications that did the Classics Illustrated comic books. So that's issue number 1. And as you can see there's no number, so you'd have to look. You always, with Gold Key and Dell, you always had to look inside to look for the numbers. That's number 1. This is number 2, another beautiful painted cover. This painted cover originally and first was done by Dell Comics. This is number 2. It gives you a description of a gun. A Colt Lightning, it says. Anyway, that's that. It's a low-grade copy. So I have almost the complete run of the Gold Key Lone Rangers. So this is issue number 3. Another beautiful, gorgeous painted cover. The Most Daring Horse. These comic books featured, that looks like Custer, yeah, General Custer. These comic books feature a lot of historical elements. It also has some excellent stories. They are all anthology books, these comics, as many of the early comic books were in those days. They were text heavy. In this case and in other comic books, there was a lot of excellent artwork by some excellent artists. All right, so that's issue number 3. This is issue number 4. This one is a fine copy of that. Issue number 4. And I should show the backs, as they often feature these beautiful paintings. These beautiful pictures, I should say. The Lone Ranger clashes with foreign agents immune to the law. Number 4, Incident on the River. Just give you an idea. The artwork was quite amazing, actually, for some of the best Western artists worked on the Lone Ranger. And of course, neither credit nor writing was given. So your guess is as good as mine as to who did it. All I do know, according to the comics guides, is that Ernest Nordley and Hartman were the artists for the series. Ken Hartman. Okay, this one is the Buffalo Hunt. All right. And this is issue number 5 from 1967. And you notice copyright 58, 57, 56, 55. So it gives you always backgrounds. Some of the issues give background about the Lone Ranger and his origin. All right. The original Dells also featured some indigenous native Indian stories. The Vigilante. Excellent artwork, by the way. He was one of the most popular Western characters in comic books, outshining all of them, including the DCs and the Marvels and the Atlases at the time, the Atlas, the precursor to Marvel. And it was one of the most popular Western characters of all time. So I'll show you, I'll just move this aside. And this is issue number 6. Now Gold Key did some of the some originals, and here's a reprint of one of the indigenous stories that appeared in the original Lone Ranger comic book published by Dell. Way ahead of its time. You didn't see comic books. Comic books this day and age doesn't even go there. It's kind of sad. And there's Silver. He had his own comic book in the Dell. This is a reprint story. All right, so this just goes to show. All right, so that's that. Of course, we have, what is this? The Timberwolf. Interesting. All right, that's that. And here's another gorgeous painted cover. I think it's Nordley, Ernest Nordley, but it doesn't. There's one of the issues has the artist's name on the bottom. So there's Lone Ranger. Silver gets through. Another small bear. Like I said, way ahead of its time. You don't see comic books telling the story of indigenous peoples. The story of Geronimo with beautiful artwork, pretty accurate rendition of what he used to look like. The Siege. The Block Train. All right. And who do we have here? The Alaska Brown Bear. That's that. This is number 8. The Haunted Mine. Ah, that's nice. That's that. terrorized town. And of course, an Indigenous story, Small Bear. Okay. And who do we have here? The Mountain Goat. And this is a fine copy of this one. And this is a rough copy of number 9. Tonto was born in Potawatomi. His tribe originally came from Wisconsin and was of the mighty Algonquin stock. So that's the Telltale Bullet. The first true Indigenous superhero. Where in comic books do you read about an Indigenous hero? Only in the Lone Ranger comic books. So there you go. So that's that one. Here's another beautiful painted cover. And this is Ernest Nordley did this cover. And there's another part retelling the origin story in text form. Yeah, this looks like Nordley's work in the interior. Reward for Sam. This is a different artist. The Kinkajou. It's one animal too many people don't know about. And there's another Small Bear story. The Cave-In. All right, and who do we have here? This is the Snowy Owl. It lives in the barrens of northern Canada. There you go. So that's the Lone Ranger, number 10. Now we'll show you the other ones. Move that aside. I won't do the deep dive this time. This is number 11. Beautiful painted cover. Number 12. And where in comic books do you see painted covers in this day and age? They are few and far between, and usually worth a lot of money if they do them. Number 13. Here's number 14. Number 15. And these are the later issues. I don't have 16 and 17. These are the later issues. This is number 18. Another beautiful, this is an original painted cover for the Gold Key line. And this is a very fine copy. This is number 19. I don't have number 20, but this is number 21. This is 22. This is 23. I'll move that aside. This is 24. This is 25. This is 26. And this is what's called the Whitman variant of number 26. '27. And 28. So I believe that's all of the Lone Ranger comics that was done by yeah, this is the complete run of the Lone Rangers minus the 3 issues that I do not have, which I will find in my hunt for to complete the Gold Key collection, which is the easiest collection to complete. I have quite a few large collection of Dell comic books, which many of which are Golden Age from the late 40s into the 1950s. So I hope you enjoyed this foray. I'll show you this is a double feature. This is from one of the covers from that you saw earlier in the Gold Key. This has the Lone Ranger and the Lone Ranger in the Lost City of Gold. The movie was released in, I think, 1956. The second one was released in 1958. The first one is by far the best. It's a classic. It's well done and well acted. And the film features Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels, but it also features some excellent acting, and it's well worth this watching, both for the acting of the leads, but also for the acting of the supporting characters. Well worth watching, and so I hope you enjoyed this short presentation, little presentation into the Gold Key Lone Rangers. And eventually, I am a fan of the Lone Ranger. I have the films. I have the current, the most recent film with well, there's the 1981 film with Clinton Spilsbury and Michael Horse, and then there's the recent film with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer in the lead roles. But the film from 1956 and even the 1981 film actually is well done. The cinematography in the 1981 Legend of the Lone Ranger is gorgeous to look at. And the Lone Ranger film with Johnny Depp is, for me, a good film, and one of the best. But the 1956 film with the lead actors, Tonto, Jay Silverheels, and Lyle Betker, and Clayton Moore, is one of the best films in one of the best westerns made, and still stands the test of time. Anyway, so the movies are easy to find. You can find them sometimes you find them on YouTube or Tubi, and but you can always get the DVDs, and this is one of the best versions out there. And of course, you can always find the DVDs on eBay. They're easy to find. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and if you did, just give me that thumbs up, like, and thanks everyone for your subscribing. Continue to subscribe. If you want to see the content that I'm going to show, I do have the Dells, and I do have the Grosset and Dunlap series. I have 18, the entire run, all 18 novels of The Lone Ranger. I can show you some of the paperbacks, but I have all 18 hardcovers. All right, so I'll show those at a later episode. Thanks everyone for watching, and feel free at any time to comment and add any information that I may have missed. Okay, thanks. Bye.